Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Perfectly Imperfect podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Minnie, and I'm here with a very special guest today, Delia Burl, a new friend of mine, and she's here to talk about entrepreneurship, creativity, self-trust, and I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining today.
I am so excited to be here. I cannot wait for this.
With all of my guests, I love to break the ice a little bit, get to know each other with a rosebud thorn. So if you want to talk through those, I'd love to hear.
Absolutely. So I love this question, first of all. My rose is a super easy one. I just got back from vacation and I always forget how much it makes a difference when you just have, even if it's just like a weekend or a week, to shut off. The level of content I feel like we consume as just Gen Z on a daily basis is so much, and especially you and I both working in media, digital space, having the time to just like come back, reset, spend all day on the beach. I was just waking up. I would go get coffee, do my morning walk, go on the beach all day, and it was absolutely perfect. I am sad to be back, but I feel renewed. You know how it feels when you have like
Mhm.
a little break and you come back, you just feel like you have so much energy to
Yeah.
expend out into all these new creative outlets. So I would say that's my rose. My bud is super exciting. I'm getting married in 3 months, which is so freaking exciting. It's gone by so fast. We got engaged in like August of last year. So we kind of did like just over a year of being engaged. And I'm just so excited to have all of my friends and family together in one place. Like the day itself, I just feel like is going to be really special. I feel like my fiance and I have done a really good job of not letting the small things kind of get into our heads too much and just be really excited about being present on the day. So I am spending a lot of my time doing the final last minute kind of tie together things for the wedding. So I'm so looking forward to that. And then
Amazing.
my my thorn is definitely a bigger one. I know you talk a lot about mental health on the podcast as well. And my thorn right now, obviously, you're aware of kind of the state of the country and the world. And my biggest struggle right now is I feel like I am at this crossroads of wanting to protect my mental health to a certain point and not consume this consistently negative content, but in the same mindset, understanding that as a white woman with a voice, it is my responsibility, or I feel like it is my responsibility to continue to advocate for underprivileged and underserved populations. So that has been kind of this dichotomy that I feel like I've been working through on how can I help without feeling such a level of overwhelm. So with that, for anyone who is also in that same spot right now, the biggest thing that I have found to be so helpful is to be a lot more intentional about looking inward to my local community. Like, what can I do for local nonprofits? Right now, I'm volunteering with a nonprofit to help with their marketing and graphic design and their copy because it's already what I do, and it's not me needing to continuously donate money while I'm trying to build my business, but it is letting me use my skills in a way that's going to push and help make a change. So I know that's a very kind of like overwhelming thorn, but it's definitely been top of mind lately. And I'm really excited to continue my advocacy work and grow because I feel like I have learned so much in the past 6 months about just everything that's going on.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up. Thank you for sharing. I know it's probably not like an easy thing to think about. And I agree, the state of the world has been quite depressing, honestly. And it's
Yeah.
hard for me as well to take it in. And I feel like I also go through waves of like wanting to learn and engage and see how I can help, but then also knowing that it's just, yeah, I need to protect myself and protect my own mental health, and finding that balance, finding that line can be really ambiguous and uncertain, and it is ambiguous and uncertain because for every single person it's going to look differently. And so I think it's beautiful how you worded that you are just finding ways to pour into your local community. And, it's not your responsibility to take on the whole big picture and do some big, radical, drastic change, because that's just not realistic for you, and that's okay. And, someone else wants to do that and they want to show up in different ways for their own advocacy, they can. But thank you for sharing that. I'm in Paris right now while we're recording. Just seeing what's going on, like, in my own home country. So many people are being impacted so negatively. And I think it's just having this distance is really helping me sort of go through a similar process like you are, in discovering how I can best help myself and help others in the best way that I can.
No, I love that. And you made a really good point too, speaking about like coming at advocacy from where you can, because other people will also do that. And I feel like that has been like such a mindset shift that has made a difference. Is and I hate, obviously, when I say pick, I'm not saying you don't care about any of the other issues going on, but picking one or two areas that I am really passionate and knowledgeable about, and really honing in on those, because there are other people who will have different passions, and all of that coming together, like, that's just more voices in all of these different sectors. I know it can feel overwhelming to feel like you need to be in every spot all the time, and reflecting and looking at it like you do, of, okay, well, what is this one space or this one or two spaces that I feel most passionate about, and where can I just start from the bottom and start moving up? So I love the way you phrase that.
Yeah, I love the way you phrase it too. Thank you for bringing that up. Like I said, I know it's not easy.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you for letting me share.
of course, yeah, this platform is, a space where I allow myself, and I really want my guests to feel like they can share what's on their mind and the unclear and uncertain and imperfect parts of life. So that's
Absolutely.
wonderful. Thank you. Well, I'll move into my rosebud thorn. My rose right now is being in Europe, like I mentioned. I'm really just proud that I'm here, and it's been a trip that I've been talking about wanting to do. And so I think just doing this for myself and following through with something I find really important to myself, which is traveling and kind of putting myself in new situations and exploring and meeting new people. It's scary at times, but I just love it overall. So that's a big rose for me. Bud is I'm traveling to Rome this weekend. I have a really old friend in Rome, and she lives there, so I obviously don't see her when I'm in the US, but every time I come to Europe, I try to squeeze in a trip to see her. So I'm really excited.
That is so
Um,
cool. I love that.
yeah.
So is she just living there full time?
Yeah, she's Italian, but we met actually at an architecture summer program that we did both our like when we were 18, just before I went to university, when we were like both testing out if we wanted to study architecture. She actually went on to architecture school in Milan, and then I went to Northeastern to do architecture. So we kind of have been following similar paths, but just in different countries across the world. So we've kept in touch since then, which has been great.
I love that. That is awesome.
And then my thorn, I think just figuring out what aligns with me and what, next steps I want to take. Just the overwhelm of knowing about the infinite paths you can take in your 20s. I think it's not a new concept, but it's, I don't know, been really getting to me recently. And I think, like you said, taking a step out of your routine, like you went to Florida, is so beneficial for so many reasons. And I think one of those reasons can be to help you reflect and think about, like, where am I going? Where's the trajectory of the things I'm doing? And does that align with me? And is that something that I see kind of helping me build and grow into the best version of myself in the future? And this time here outside of New York has been doing that for me as well.
Totally get that too. And I really liked what you said about figuring it out in your 20s. I actually just was listening to another podcast a couple days ago, and both of the women who were talking on it are in their 30s, and they had this whole little side conversation where they were saying, like, I remember being in my 20s and feeling like I needed to figure everything out, and they're like, I'm 35 and I still am figuring it out. And
Yep.
it really made me take a step back, because I do feel like our 20s, especially kind of like mid to late 20s, it feels like this sense of overwhelming discovery. Like, you need to get everything figured out within these next 5 years, and you hit 30 and then what? But really, like, you're on a consistent journey of self-discovery, and that is never going to end. And I love the work that you're doing now, though, to take that step back and be like, okay, well, what do I actually want now? And what are the kind of initial steps that I want to take to open my mind up for where I see myself going? And I think that's a beautiful way you're going about it, because I think you're coming at it from a space that isn't even really like pressured. You're taking yourself out of that pressured space, giving yourself a chance to like go into a new culture, to explore the world. And I think that's a really beautiful way of going about it.
Oh, thank you. And equally, I know you will talk more about it in the episode too. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you sort of navigated your own path in that way, because, like I said, there's so many different paths. And I know you and I have, we both like design and marketing and have very
Mhm.
similar interests, but I assume we may approach it in very different ways. And yeah, I'm excited to hear more about it.
For
So,
sure.
moving on, I would love to hear just a little bit of your background, share whatever you feel.
Absolutely. So, hi, I'm Delia Burl. I grew up in Maryland, like 15 minutes outside of Baltimore, and I now live in Annapolis, which is the like Maryland sailing town capital, with my fiance Connor and our dog Brew and our cat Daisy. We have our nice little fam. And so I always like to start out too. I'm one of those quintessential personality test takers. Like, I don't know if you have done that as well, like the
Not too
Enneagram or
much,
the
no.
Myers-Briggs or human design. I just always love all of those just because I'm like, this gives an indication of kind of a little bit about my personality. So if anyone else is into that out here listening to that, I am an Enneagram 2 Wing 3, which basically means I'm a people pleaser and a perfectionist mixed. I am a manifesting generator in human design, and I'm an ENFJ on Myers-Briggs. All of these basically tie in together to be a kind of continuously optimistic, slightly people pleasing, but very action oriented person, which I feel like does describe exactly how I am. I am constantly looking on the glass half full, but I will constantly be trying to do more or do something else or add something else to my plate. So I'm sure you can relate to some of that. And well, usually when I'm not running the studio, I am probably listening to a podcast on my walk with the dog. I am a consistently anxious girly, but I will always listen to true crime podcasts. So that is my
Well,
go-to. Or that if I'm not doing that, I'm probably at some antique store nearby searching for a mid-century modern piece to redesign my house for the 100th time, because I just cannot get enough of going on Pinterest and trying to build out this like beautiful dream house. And I love antique shopping. So if there are any good like antique stores around you in New York, I would love to know because I need.
yeah, I would like to know as well. I honestly think I haven't done a lot of searching, but
You
that's
have to go to
so.
Hudson. If you haven't been to Hudson, New York, the
Oh, no, I
they have
haven't.
an oh my gosh, there I did a trip there last year and it was I think it's like a mid-century modern furniture hub essentially. And I went with some of my friends it was like a 30,000 square foot warehouse of just like all of these beautiful custom made like oh my gosh, it was
Wait,
stunning.
I need to go. I need
Yeah,
to
and they have
go.
so many beautiful like home goods stores as well. Not home goods like the actual store,
Yeah,
like the boutique home goods
right.
stores.
I've heard so much about these personality tests, and I think I've maybe taken one, but not to the extent where I like fully, took it in and remembered. But
Yeah.
from what you said, we sound very similar. So like
Yeah,
I resonate with a lot of what you said. Yep.
after listening to your other
The
episodes, I'm like, we're so on par.
yeah. Yeah, the part you said about being glass half full, but equally feeling like you need to constantly fill your glass at the same time.
I also feel like as a creative and also being in like design and marketing, we always see that there's so much more that we can do. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, because this is an option, I should be trying to do it or I should hop in here. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 I don't need to do that. But it's just a constant need to be like, oh, well, if I don't try this or if I don't do that, I feel like I'm missing out. I get FOMO.
Yeah, yeah, I know that feeling too well. And I think to an extent, that's part of just a creative mind. And I think maintaining that curiosity is so important if, for designers and anyone working in a creative field and career. But equally, I guess, like we were talking about as well, knowing that there are going to be infinite options and figuring out like what actually aligns with you and you're not just doing something because maybe the next designer next to you or next creative person next to you is doing it. Yeah,
Yes,
it's hard. It's definitely
exactly.
hard figuring that out myself.
That was hard for me to
Um,
learn, for sure.
yeah. Well, speaking on that, I would love to hear about your design, creative, and entrepreneurial journey. You own a studio named Tidewater Studio. And so, how did that start? And what have you learned in this journey thus far?
I have learned so much. The journey has definitely been a whirlwind. It has been all over the place, and I would not change a thing to where I am now. So I feel like I have to start kind of back in 2020 when I was gonna graduate. I did graduate college, but obviously it was COVID, so I didn't actually walk. I never ended up
Mm,
walking. I just ended up having them send my diploma in the mail. I went to Towson, which is just one of Maryland's big state schools for communication and marketing. So I'd always kind of had this interest in that. I had never changed my major, so I just kind of went in and was like, I want to do this, continued, ended up loving it. And then I took an internship at a local agency my senior year. And then once COVID hit, they didn't really know how to do virtual learning at that time. So I ended up just essentially hopping on full time the second semester of my senior year. And that was just, I just started my first job early. I did that for a year and a half, and my agency job taught me so much about every aspect of marketing, from like organic social to paid social to SEO to ads to copywriting. But it also, and I know we've talked about this before, like it taught me exactly what I didn't want to do in business, just because I saw a lot of overworking, a lot of underpaying, a lot of just frustrating interactions with clients that it just did not sit well with me. And so I ended up leaving that job and taking a job as a content specialist at a SaaS company, software as a service. So it was very niche software, not very aesthetic, not very, our type of brand, but it was
yeah.
it was a really, really amazing job. I met my fiance there. And my first year there, I had just this itch to, like we talked about, I always needing to do more or feeling like I want to, expand somewhere else. And so I started freelancing actually with Tidewater Studio as Tidewater Social. I did a little over a year and a half of social media management at first, because that was my main job at my agency. And that is also what sparked my transition into Tidewater Studio, because during this entire time, I essentially was seeing the same pattern repeat over and over again, which was the fact that these clients I was working with didn't have a foundation or messaging to work from. So anything that I was posting was very reactive or just following some random, like, one-off trend that they had seen. And it wasn't really moving the needle for them. Or they were also just looking at that without having any other marketing done, like no email marketing, no engagement, and just saying that, so like, social media is supposed to lead to sales. And obviously you and I know that's not true. It's a very top of funnel platform. But I essentially started working on forms of strategy and messaging for them, because I was like, something needs to change here because you don't even have this foundation. And that kind of gave me the aha moment to be like, maybe I should just be doing brand strategy and messaging and design, because this is the foundation that I'm yearning for as a social media manager. And so that is essentially what really sparked Tidewater Studio. And then my SaaS company that I was working for, I worked there for 3 years. I loved it. I freelanced for that entire 3 years, and my company sold to a private equity firm last year. So I essentially knew I was either going to hate my job or I was going to get laid off. It was going to be one or the two. And so I took that and said, you know what? This is my sign, or this is my time, and I just have to bite the bullet and do it and jump. And I did in December. And so now I have just hit about 6 months of running Tidewater Studio full time, and it has been a beautiful transition. So that, in a nutshell, is how Tidewater Studio came to be.
Oh, I love that. And where did the name Tidewater come from? I'm
Honestly,
curious.
so, and this is funny because, so there's two areas for it. And so in Maryland. Maryland is part of the Tidewater region, which is just kind of like Maryland, Virginia, Chesapeake Bay area. And so it's a specific region. So regionality played a role in that. But then also my idea of guiding you through the ebb and flow of business through tides. So really working more as, and I talk about this a lot in my business. I I know it might come off harsh, but I say I'm not another logo designer. Like I don't want to be the one that's just dropping a logo for you. I want to be the one that is in there with you for months building, getting all of these like beautiful gems about your story and your perspective and then helping you show that. So really kind of working as a partner through these highs and lows of your business and then showing you how to pivot and expand that into your brand.
Well, thank you for sharing. I love
Yeah.
that story, and I assume probably taking that leap in December brought up a lot of emotions and a lot of, thoughts for you. But as you've moved into this transition and, are in it and kind of very much running your business full time now, I'd love to hear, I mean, this is something for myself as well, but all of our listeners, how you balance work-life balance. I feel like that's such like a buzzword, the ultimate goal, and I know that there's no one size fits all for work-life balance. But are there any rituals or habits that you have built into your life to make self-employment sustainable for you?
Absolutely. It has definitely been a learning curve. I have had to learn balance in both sides of it. And that was surprising for me. Because I think coming out of corporate America, you also don't realize how much structure you do have already while you're in there. Like you're reporting to someone, you have your set tasks, you have your set salary, and when you go full time, like that's all gone. And it is just a big learning curve that I have loved. I've definitely had to learn to balance my days and make time for my self-care. So what I've done that's really worked for me is to pick, I would say like 2 or 3 things that I say this is a non-negotiable for me. I block that out in my calendar and then I time block the rest of my day around that. So for me, I have a hot sculpt and yoga studio like right down the street from me and I adore going there. And so usually I'll either pick a morning class or a noon class and use that to start my day or to like break up my day. And that is a really good brain break that's also getting a workout in for me. And in the same mindset around that, also giving a couple days a week to do a little bit of meditation. I use the Open app. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yes,
that.
I love the
Yeah,
open app.
I
Yeah.
love Open.
Hmm.
The guy, I think he's the owner, Minaj. His
Hmm.
his are amazing. They're my favorite. I will listen to them all the time. So, really kind of carving out specific brain breaks have been really, really meaningful for me. Also, with having a dog, I have to walk him multiple times a day too. So, that's been nice. So, I just usually take 2 to 3 times a day where I'm like, this is my 20-minute break. I'm going to go out on a walk. So, regardless, pet or not, like just giving yourself that time to take a break from the task that you're working on. Because as a creative too, I'm sure you've been here. My favorite example to give is like working on a logo, or I'm an illustrator exporting files or something. I'll sit there, if I don't pull myself back, I'll sit there for like 8 hours straight and do it. And I won't have eaten lunch. I wouldn't have taken a walk. So giving yourself kind of that time block brain break has been really, really helpful. And also on the other side of that, giving yourself time to rest and take space away from your business, because I found, especially being in my first year of building this, that there is still so much I want to do. There's so much I want to expand on my website and my emails and my Instagram. And I was finding myself working on weekends or working really late at night because I have that flexibility. But then realizing, oh my gosh, okay, well, I would have rather spent these past 2 hours, sitting on the couch talking to my fiance than working.
Yeah.
So just really having to evaluate just your time is definitely a big learning curve. But that has been the best thing that I've done, is just to time block my habits into my day.
Yeah. And I was going to ask a follow-up question. You literally
Please
read
do.
my mind
Oh,
on what I was thinking of asking because you said you open an Illustrator file and you'll sit looking and probably tweaking the tiniest little line curve for
me
hours. I
going
know.
through the fonts, me just
Yep.
scrolling through
Yes.
fonts
Oh my
for
God, the
2 hours.
font. Don't get me
Nightmare.
started.
I love it
Um,
though. I will
yeah,
do it
that was
and I'll enjoy it. But
Yeah. It's because we love it, but what do you put in place to kind of help yourself get to that stopping point? Because I know, like, when I'm in that flow state, it's very difficult to stop me. And, whether I almost can never pull myself out of it. Any tips you have on that in maybe both like getting into the flow and then maybe stopping the flow when necessary?
yes, so I can definitely answer to both. I do have trouble getting into flow states sometimes. And
Mm,
what has really helped me with that, and again, I like to come at this from a very balanced perspective. Like when I'm talking about time blocking or when I'm talking about, organization, there's definitely a lot of flexibility in there. Like this isn't me time blocking every hour to the hour. It's more so giving myself an outline. And that has also what has helped me get more into the flow state is giving myself specific days that I will work on specific types of tasks. And so it might not be like, oh, on Wednesday every week, I need to only export logos, but I will say, I want 2 days this week to be a design heavy day. So what are my, least meeting heavy days? And I'll take that and just prepare myself and say, like, I'm going to sit in this and I'll give myself this many hours to work on that. But I found before that if I hadn't picked kind of like a theme per se for that day, I felt like I would just be constantly moving. Like I would do two logos and then I would move to an email. And I just was like, I'm not actually completing these tasks that fast. And when I
yeah.
did switch to kind of theming my days, it felt so much better because I knew I was sitting and focusing all that energy on completing this one or two types of tasks. And it made it that much easier to just go through and complete it because I knew the next day I was working on emails or I was working on something else. And then for getting out of the flow state, I hate to just say like time blocking because that doesn't always help. Give yourself grace. Like if you're sitting in there and you're like, I'm having a great time and I want to keep doing this for another couple hours, go ahead. That's the
Right.
whole point of running your own business. You can do that. There are some
Mhm.
days that I will do that. But for me, usually I find if I block out a couple self-care things that I'm like, oh, even if I block out like go get coffee or go make lunch or do this,
Mhm.
then I'm like, okay, this is a 30-minute, I treat it like a meeting essentially. I'm like, oh,
Right.
I have to be here because my thing
Right.
is saying this. So that has
Yeah.
helped me pull back and be like, oh, I'm treating this like a meeting and I need to step away from this for now and come back to it later.
Right.
And so I would say reframing your self-care items as necessary for your business, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
before I think I also was coming at it in a way of thinking that me taking that time for self-care is me not being productive or me not working hard enough in my business. And that is so not true. That's actually me making space so that I can be better and provide better results for my clients. I would say flipping the script and thinking of your self-care as a part of running your business has been really, really helpful for me because I'm able to step back and pour into myself so that I can come back and pour into others more easily.
I love all of that advice. Like all of it resonated with me.
Okay,
I've
good.
heard of the daily theming as well, and I think that's something I really need to hop on because I know too well that feeling of just half starting something and then you're like, oh wait, but I also have to work on this, and then you work on
Yeah,
that
and
for a
then I
little bit,
forgot
and I'm
about
like, oh,
that.
I have to work on this, and the whole self-care piece as well that really resonates and I think is so important because it's probably so easy to just continue working and overwork yourself and not see that yoga class or go getting that coffee as quote unquote worthy of your time during your business day. But I love that you said that it's something that you need to prioritize and treat like a meeting. And it's not like this is your sort of excuse for not working. You're really in a mindset of this is a part that is filling my personal cup. And then that way I can then fill up my businesswoman cup at the same time. So I love that.
Exactly. And that's one piece of advice too that I feel like really, really resonated in giving me a mindset shift around business ownership. Because like I also don't know how much you've dealt with this, but going full time too, I wouldn't even say it was backlash, but you do receive, or at least I received a handful of comments that people just undermine what running a business is. They're like, "Oh, how's your little side gig going?" or "How is this going?" I literally had one of my old coworkers, I stopped in for I stopped back in the office for something because my fiance still works there. And he literally was like, oh, well, how nice is it to just get up and go to the grocery store and Pilates in the morning? And I'm like,
My gosh.
I don't see you running a business. So
Right.
it just the switching it can be really hard, especially as a young woman in your 20s, where you still feel like you're figuring everything out, to then get in your own head about like, oh my gosh, am I not working hard enough? Am I not doing this? Like, you took the jump to give yourself and the life that you want and to build that. Like, it is a disservice to yourself to not take that time.
And treat it as,
Yeah.
is very important and serious to yourself. And I mean, yeah, that I feel like that advice can spread across so many different elements of life as well, just taking what others say with a grain of salt, as they
Yeah.
say, and just, not internalizing someone else's opinions. And as the people pleasers we are, that's difficult, but
It was so
good
hard.
thing to be learning and growing in. And this kind of perfectly leads into my next question for you, which is talking about making that jump, but specifically making the jump of your passion, and like, what are your thoughts on turning your passion into your career, and what tips and advice would you have for other creative people and entrepreneurial people who are maybe feeling more stuck or unsure of how to take that similar jump into building out their passion into something sustainable?
Yeah, for sure. So I could answer this question in so many different ways. Starting out on turning passion into career, I hate to be so basic starting this out, but the idea of just freaking doing it. Like, I came at it from the mindset of, if I don't do this, there is 100% chance that I will never know what it would have been like. And that
Right.
honestly was what flipped my script to be like, if I know, I would never ever know what this is like. Why not try this? And also, I know we've talked about this too, like the idea of having so many different paths that you can or cannot go down. It is not the end all be all. If you choose one path and it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean you can't pivot. It doesn't mean that you can't take a part-time job or you can't start freelancing or I couldn't go back into the workforce. And I think before taking that jump, that's what I was so scared of. And I came at it from, and I want to come at this lightly. Like, I understand that I have two incomes. Like, my fiance is still working a full-time job. I'm able to build this sustainably without a fear of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose everything. I'm not going to have enough money to pay my rent, etc. So I understand that not everyone's situation is the same with that. But my biggest advice is to make the jump, because you will grow so much so fast. The two or 3 years of freelancing prior to jumping off, I obviously grew and I learned a lot, but I will tell you, from December to now, I've grown exponentially even more in the clarity of what I want for myself, what I want for my business, how I want to show up. Just having that time is beautiful, and it really cannot be replaced by just, I don't want to say by just freelancing, because that is like a beautiful way to grow, but really taking that leap, you are going to learn so much about yourself. That is what's going to be the deciding factor. After leaving corporate America, you cannot pay me enough money to go back unless you're giving me like a $500,000 salary.
Yeah.
Don't put me back in corporate America.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is just not, it's not for me. And I think also, just as Gen Z and as this creator economy is growing, it's becoming so much more normalized to be your own brand, but also run your own brand. And I love how much this is growing. And I think it's a really, really palpable shift of what the next generation of the workforce is going to look like. So I think because this is becoming more normalized now, it has just made it that much easier for me to make the jump. And I would much rather be on the front end of this than wishing I would have done it, 5 years down the road.
I'm curious as well, like, before December, how did you know that you wanted to kind of freelance on the side, and what was your, like, I guess more of a connecting to your creativity in that way, and not thinking like, well, I have a full-time job, this is all I can do, but opening the possibilities in your mind to like, oh wow, I can actually build something and I can pour into my
Yes.
passion in
Okay.
this
Okay. So
way.
more
And
like the
then,
trans.
at that time you didn't necessarily know it would become your full-time job, but
Mhm.
you still did it anyway without that sort of certainty. So maybe advice for people like that. Okay, go.
So I would say that for people who are feeling unsure of how to build your career, I would go about this in two ways. The first is just to start educating yourself on anything and everything like you're doing now. You're reading those graphic design books. I started just consuming, and I say this lightly too, like consuming content, but I would find people in my industry that I really, really resonated with. And a lot of that was just me resonating with their personality. And that is one of the biggest shifts that I've seen too, is leading with my personality rather than leading with my expertise or all of this like data, because a lot of times people are connecting with you. That's what's actually converting them, is you meeting you personally. And so with that, I took courses on copywriting to expand gaps that I had in that section. I listened to a lot of obviously entrepreneurial podcasts. When it comes down to it, a lot of me becoming sure about what I wanted to do was me reflecting back on the type of life that I knew I wanted to lead. And thinking about, okay, I have two paths in front of me, right? I have this path of right now I'm freelancing on the side, but I'm also in corporate and I'm feeling burnt out because I'm not happy at my job. And I am also trying to build my business on the side and freelance this. And then on the other side, I said, I don't know how I'm going to get here, but if I take this jump, what is the type of life I want? I personally wanted a life that was flexible. I didn't want to be stuck in the confines of working a 9 to 5. My fiance and I are planning on having a family, and I wanted to make sure that I had a flexible job that I could take care of my kids or have a more flexible schedule to be able to pick them up from school or take a longer maternity leave and not, again, be stuck in these confines. I also knew that I have always had this and this sounds so big, but I just have always had this inner desire to transform something for people or show them that transformation. And I feel like being in the corporate workforce, it is so much harder to do that, especially in like a larger company or in marketing or at an agency. Whereas now, getting to sit one on one with these business owners and hear them share like the most vulnerable parts of their story and how they built their business and the struggles they've gone through, and then give them those aha moments that I found myself, the reward that I've felt from that is so palpable. It just gives me a sense of I know what I'm doing is exactly where I'm supposed to be, regardless of how that is going to turn out. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be difficult. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have hard months, but being able to continuously pour out my creativity, interact with my community, get to enhance the lives and the brands and showcase these wonderful, beautiful individual business owners, like that is so beautiful to me.
Totally. I love that. And I love how you just sort of talked about that feeling that you got and that alignment and that sort of click in your mind of like this is what I'm meant to be here for. And I think that's something I've been thinking about too, like this whole sense of like finding the point, finding the purpose. And in reality, like there is no set point, there is no set purpose. No one
Yes.
human is on this earth destined to do something. I mean, they are destined to do things, but I'm saying it in the way of like that has to come from within you, and you make that for yourself. And I think so many people in their 20s, including myself, has been searching externally sometimes for those things of like, this job can give me this relationship can give me this friendship can give me this sense of purpose. And I think they can give you a lot of sense of purpose, but it sounds to me, and it's so beautiful the way you were talking about that, and that like you found that from within, you found that from your own decision of sort of putting yourself first and putting your creativity first in this way. And like you said, no matter the challenges and the struggles that come along with that, this is sort of your grounding and your anchor. And I think that's so wonderful.
Yes, I love that you use that word, like an anchor. That is exactly what it feels like. Because I also know, just in your 20s, like we talked about, I just feel like it's kind of, you feel like you're kind of all over the place a lot. Like there's so much, well, what am I going to do for work? Or what am I going to do for this? Or my health? Or my this? Or am I going to start this new hobby? And I feel like making this transition, as much as it scared me, it also recentered me. Like taking the leap, the week I took the leap, was I terrified? Absolutely. It's a huge jump. It's a huge change. And I don't want to overlook that, because I know a lot of people come and they can talk about, being on the other side of it. They're like, of course I would do it again. But that, yeah, of course I would, but that doesn't negate the fact that it is scary and that's totally normal. But after that, the inner peace I felt of knowing that I made this decision for me and that I feel so aligned in it was so palpable and noticeable. And honestly, I feel like it started to compound. Like that one decision has given me the confidence to really just start pulling a lot of that like perfectionist anxiety layers back of like I'm just doing it. I did this and it's worked out so far. And it I feel like it will just continue to compound. And I also know, especially with you being very active on social media and just in that space, it can feel so overwhelming of like, oh, well, what are the trends and or the algorithm this and trends that. And the biggest thing was me looking inward. And I also tell this to all my clients, like, that is not what's defining you. What's defining you is sharing your story, your perspective, carving out your space in whatever industry that is, and just opening yourself up to that vulnerability. That has been the biggest difference maker in the most positive way for me.
I love what you said about kind of thinking that people need to hop on trends and be following what other people are doing and seeing. And that's such a like comparison trap, I call it, and it is called so widely known that it's so easy to fall into in your 20s and especially in entrepreneurial journeys as well. It's so easy to fall into, well, this is working for this person, so let me try it. This person is working for this person, so let me try it. And I don't want to say that never works because, in a way, like trends on social media do work. There's some evidence to support that. But I think the angle that you're taking it and the angle that I'm really working on pursuing for myself as well, it's not disregarding those ways that other people are building their lives, but it's not sort of taking that as your truth and taking that as your anchor. And it's really building your own anchor and your own voice, your own opinions, and sharing, whether that's sharing on social media or talking about it to your clients. Like finding a way to just be your authentic self is something I'm really, really working on. And it sounds like you've been on that similar journey and been finding that that's actually what's helping you keep making steps in this journey is because, well, I'm aligned with myself in this step. So that means in this next step, I'm pretty certain I'm going to remain aligned with myself in this way. And literally with my therapist, actually, we were talking about like kind of building that trust and just having that support, knowing that you'll have your own back throughout everything that you do.
I love the way you said that, and I totally get what you're saying about kind of taking other people's work as like your truth and embodying that. Like that, we're right on par with that. I'm not saying that like trends don't work or we can't do this. Like, yes, that is a huge part of growing your brand, but always coming back to like who is behind that brand. And I always think about the fact, and because I think this is what was holding me back for so long, was I was obviously comparing such a comparison mindset to everyone else, but you and I know as people pleasers, it is really hard especially as a business owner to pull back and not take things personally. So one of my biggest struggles was like anytime I would freeze about posting a piece of content, I was thinking, oh my gosh, well, what if someone gets offended or they don't like this, et cetera, et cetera. And then I was like, wait, but this resonates with me and I want to share this with people who are going to work with me. And it is so much more important for us to be sharing in a way that is so authentic to our true selves and just in this constant battle of, influencers and ads and just so much content all of the time. Pulling back to ourselves is going to make running a business or growing your job that much easier because you're opening up space for more people who do resonate with you to come in. And I found it out the hard way, but like the worst thing I can do is to continue to compare and project to other people because they're not the same as me. They're not taking on the same clients as me. They're not interacting with the same type of people as I am. And so carving out that space for myself and the people who resonate with that, all it's going to do is continue to like build this more aligned market. So it really just, it does, I always say it does a disservice if you are just constantly comparing and using other people's work. So another piece of advice tying back to like the question before is to really not be afraid to let people in on the process, to your vulnerability, to you as you're growing and learning, and your quirks. That I have found, seeing the response, that is like, that type of content is the highest responses I've gotten across any pieces of content I've put out.
Right. And humans love being part of the
Humans love
story.
humans.
They love knowing where it started and where it's going and how it's ending up.
Yeah.
And
They
yeah,
want to be bought into the process.
hmm
Like, I think
totally.
about you, like with Paris right now. Like, that is in itself a journey. Like, people are following along because they want to see your journeys. You're growing and you're learning and you're doing new things.
Well, thank you so much for all your advice today. I definitely know I'm taking so much out of this conversation. I'm just so appreciative of you coming on the podcast today.
I had such a good time. You know, I'm a yapper, so I was probably yapping all over the place, but I was so excited to be on this. I told you before I was like binging some of the episodes, and I love being able to talk face to face. Just the idea of this more intimate connection in podcasts is such a wonderful thing, and I find this so valuable. So thank you for having me.
Of course, I find it equally so valuable. And yeah, I just feel like I take away such different things from every conversation, and just being able to share that, but also take it in myself. I'm just so grateful for all these wonderful people, including yourself, to be here. So, with that, where can people find you if they want to reach out to the wonderful Delia or work with you? Where can people find you?
Perfect. So lots of places to find me. You can find me on Instagram at tidewater.studio, on my website at tidewaterstudio.co. Yes, .co, not .com, because .com was taken by some, I literally think it was some like rec sports league that they haven't had an active website for like 6 years. And I've emailed them to get that back, and they're trying to charge me like $1,000 for it. And I'm like, I'm not paying that. Your domain's
You're
worth
like,
like
you're not even
$12.
using it. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not even using this. So tidewaterstudio.co. And then I also, in my Instagram, I have a bunch of links to, I do a weekly newsletter called The Current that is kind of like slightly unhinged, a weekly newsletter for branding tips, everything like that. And you can find all of my services on my website as well. And I have also been getting into Threads lately. I don't know if you've been on Threads at all, but
honestly, I feel
no,
like
I
I
don't know
should,
if it's just
but
like an industry thing, because there's a ton of like brand marketing copy people on there, but that has been a new space. So if you're on Threads, it's same as my Instagram, tidewater.studio.
well,
Yeah.
thank you again so much. I will link all of Delia's websites and socials and links in the show notes below. And if you're watching on YouTube, in the YouTube description below. Thank you so much again for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. I can't freaking wait for it to come out. I'm so
Yes.
excited. Thank you so much, Queen.
Oh, all right. And with that, we'll catch you all in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.